my district, and for good reason. It spends money we don't have on things that we don't need. And these numbers get so big, right? $3.5 trillion is almost $10,000 per American. This budget would add $16 trillion to the debt. That's $48,500 per person, which means that every American's share of the national debt at that point is almost $150,000. So you got to ask yourself, what is this really about? What are the priorities of this budget? I'll tell you, it's not about timeliness. Speaker Pelosi has called Congress back from our districts where we're hearing from real Americans about real problems, and she's trying to run this budget through. This isn't about fairness. This budget picks winners and losers. It's not about responsibility. The Democrats' budget would be the largest tax and spend measure in America's history, and it's completely irresponsible. And it's not about safety. President Biden's made America less safe than the last week, and this Democratic budget does not focus on safety measures to address the southern border and what we're seeing in Afghanistan. This is about partisanship, and Democrats' backward, hyper-partisan priorities are on full display. I join all my colleagues to strongly oppose this horrible piece of legislation. Thank you, Kat. I yield back.
Thank you, Tracy. All right, up next, I'd like to recognize my friend and colleague from Wisconsin, Representative Glenn Grothman.
Thank you, Kat, and thanks for your wonderful staff for putting this together. It's kind of hard to something new to say, but I want to give you something to think on or something that your listeners or viewers ought to know about. A month ago, we let, for the first time, for all I know ever, but a long time, 105,000 people across the border. A year ago, it was 10,000. Why do I bring those figures up? Because in this budget, or proposed spending bill, less than 1/2000th of $1 trillion, and this is worth trillions, less than 1/2000th of $1 trillion is spent on Homeland Security. And if you go down to the border, the thing you're going to hear more than anything else is, because so many kids are crossing, the Border Patrol's got to spend all their time dealing with the kids and not guarding the border, which is one of the reasons why the people crossing has gone up tenfold since a year ago. So I would ask the Democrats, if they hold a meeting like this, do you think that's appropriate? The second thing I'll bring up quickly, they're going for a free community college, which in Wisconsin we call technical school. I'm a big advocate for technical schools, but it shows the lack of common sense in that party. Obviously, if you get something for free, you're not going to work that hard at it. You're going to change the whole tempo within the technical colleges or community colleges, because since people aren't paying tuition, you're going to have marginal students there who don't care. It's going to make a mess of them. Thank you much, Kat, for having me.
Thank you, Glenn. Oh, here's your phone. Up next, we have from California, Representative Oberly.
Ladies and gentlemen, we were warned about this. We were warned. Over the last 18 months, this Congress has dumped an additional $6 trillion into our economy. And the economists warned us that this is dangerously inflationary, that this causes a situation where too many dollars are chasing a fixed number of goods and services. And unfortunately, they have proven to be correct. Inflation last month is tracking at an annualized rate of 5.4%. What's more alarming than that is that the Consumer Price Index is a lagging indicator of inflation. The leading indicator of inflation is producer prices. Those are up over 7%. That means higher prices on everything that our families depend on. And it's in that environment that this Congress is now proposing an additional $3.5 trillion of spending. Folks, that is just going to make this problem even worse. And here's why that matters. When inflation is caused through government action, as inflation currently is certainly the case, that represents an unseen tax on every American woman and child and man. And that unseen tax, unfortunately, is borne disproportionately by the segment of our population that can least afford to pay it. And those are our constituents that constitute the working poor and those in poverty. You or I might be able to afford to pay twice as much as a gallon of milk, but folks, those people cannot. And this will make that problem even worse. We're talking about destroying the American dream, that promise that we have an economic ladder and all you have to do is work hard and you can climb up it. That's going to be destroyed by this kind of government irresponsibility. I urge this body to reject this irresponsible budget and to put our fiscal house in order.
Thank you, Jay. And finally, bringing us to the finish line will be the distinguished gentleman from the great state of Texas, Mr. Jody Arrington.
Thank you, Rep. Kamek, and appreciate your leadership as we revealed to the American people what would happen as a result of the whirlwind of the most reckless socialist $3.5 trillion largest tax and spending bill in our nation's history. Folks, this isn't just the largest transfer of wealth. This isn't just the largest transfer of power. It's the most radical reimagination of the role of government in the lives of our fellow citizens ever. And it's a down payment on the U.S. transition from a free market, citizen-centered society to a centrally controlled socialist country. What do I mean by that? Look at the tax code. Look at how the tax code, raising taxes on our business is higher than communist China. The tax foundation says 70% of that tax burden is borne by working families with higher cost of goods and services and lower wages. We cut taxes, we raised wages higher than we've seen in over a decade. We had more jobs and we had people to fill them. Now we're going to chase jobs back overseas. We're going to make America less competitive. And if you allow the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act provisions to expire, you're going to tax everybody, especially the middle class, especially small businesses. But the most sinister and punitive element that I know that would actually strike at the heart of rural America is the weaponization of the tax code to do away with, to attack, to put a full-on assault on oil and gas. Oil and gas, the lifeblood of our economy, turning the wheels of 80% of this economy and the global economy. We lead the world. We have the comparative advantage that's the envy of the world. We have low-cost, reliable energy for our consumers and for our job creators, and they're going to take the tax code and remove general business expensing, which every company and job creator gets. They're going to remove depreciation, and they're going to kill millions of jobs in rural America, independent oil and gas producers that allow us to heat and cool our homes in a responsible way, in an affordable way, and they also allow our country to be energy independent. That's what's at stake with this legislation, and like I said, it's a direct assault on rural America and oil and gas producing regions like West Texas. And with that, Madam Chair, I yield back.
Thank you to Mr. Arrington. Our Democratic colleagues have this space reserved for a 3 o'clock time slot. I'm glad that they could hear some of our remarks, and we would like to show them consideration for the time, but hopefully they will reciprocate that consideration in today's vote. I'd like to thank you all. I know you might have questions. Please, you can catch us back here in the under the carriage, or you can coordinate with our respective communications directors. Adeline, right here, I'll be able to stick around. Votes have been called, so I want to be considerate of the time, as well as votes that have been called. So thank you so much to everyone for being here today. Thank you.